Welcome to Roll, Ponder, and Play, a podcast dedicated to crafting stories through the application of role-playing game engines, combined with creative thinking and propelled into the ether by the barest of prompts. I'm Jared Hess, taking on all the roles of game master, solo player, author, and narrator. Come with me on a journey, and together let us explore realms of shadow, danger, and wonder. One role can decide the fate of many things. Welcome to episode 17 of the Queen of Shadows podcast on Roll, Ponder, and Play. I'm Jared Hess, your friendly neighborhood game master, solo player, author, and narrator. In our previous episode, Eilwen, Aron, and Kyffin venture into the dark subterranean ruins beneath the tower of the Husk, Edris, hoping to pass through to the other side of the mountains. They move through a huge rectangular-wrought chamber with large, finely crafted statues carved into the pillars holding up the ceiling. The artistry is similar to what they found on the mask of the shriveled warrior on the surface, and to the workmanship of the bridge where they hunted the birds. They surmise that this must be the handiwork of the elves, and at one time, one of their population centers. But now it is a dark and dismal place, devoid of any wholesome life. They follow one of the main thoroughfares. After traveling long, weary hours, they stop to camp amidst the rubble of a partially collapsed ornate archway. Eilwen, on watch, hears sounds of something moving in the dark. Unsure what it is, she wakes her brother and has him light a torch while she wakes Kyffin. In the light of the torch, they see a monstrosity, a horror come to life. It's a huge bug-like creature, something like a giant centipede with a long body, a hard black carapace, sharp spear-like legs, and a head filled with razor-sharp teeth the size of daggers, surrounded by tentacles writhing with ill intent. They try to flee, and Kyffin is chased down and overcome, gravely wounded and bleeding out. Eilwen wants to save him, but she is physically detained by her own brother Aron as he manhandles her, pulling her back into the darkness, away from the macabre mill, as Kyffin is consumed alive in the dying light of their fallen torch. As we begin this episode, Eilwen's stats are Edge 2, Heart 1, Iron 1, Shadow 3, Wits 2. Current assets: Archer, initial box; Cutthroat, initial box; Shadow Walk, initial box; Duelist, initial box. Current statuses: Supply 5 out of 5, Spirit 0 out of 5, Health 3 out of 5, Momentum 4 out of 10. Current debilities: Shaken. Current unspent XP 0. For the astute-eared among you, I have made yet another mistake last episode. Some of you may have noticed that I forgot to drop my maximum momentum down by 1 because of Eilwen's shaken debility. Maximum momentum is usually 10, but it is affected by debilities like shaken, and so technically her momentum could not have exceeded 9 until shaken is removed. I told you my previous mistake would not be my last, but I don't feel too bad about it since she wasn't technically supposed to have taken shaken anyway. So when you hear maximum momentum of 10, just be aware that that is incorrect until that shaken condition gets removed. Anyway, I won't and cannot retcon this error, so this and future episodes with this mistake stand as they are. And now, on to episode 17 of Queen of Shadows. It seemed like hours had passed when Aron set her down gently once his arms began to tremble, and when the sad pool of dying torchlight where Kyffin had perished in such a horrid manner was only a distant pinprick of a dusky, blood-red glow. Aron then lit another torch and they resumed their march. He pulled her up to her feet and led the way. She followed behind, numb, hardly thinking, just putting one foot ahead of the other, trying not to ponder of what else might be in the dark places of this realm forsaken of light and hope. When she was so tired she could go no further, she sank to the ground, her throat parched with thirst, legs burning from the long hike through the heavy, tenebrous gloom. Okay, this is a make camp roll. We're rolling plus supply. We have a supply of 5, and a roll of 4 on the action dice for a 9 against a 3 and an 8 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. That is welcome news. However, she cannot raise her spirit because of her shaken debility, so she will heal, and her health goes up to 4 out of 5, and she will also prepare, which means we get to add +1 to our next Delve the Depths move. Eilwen didn't know how to feel about Aron. Who was the monarch here, and who was the servant? They ate strips of dried meat and drank the cold water that dripped and sometimes ran in rivulets through this dark metropolis. They prepared for more of the same on the morrow. They still did not speak, and whenever Eilwen closed her eyes, she saw the horrors of what she had witnessed. That abhorrent creature and its horrible maker. Kyffin dying in vain, in pain, in agonies of increasing octaves. Would she ever sleep in peace again? They didn't take watches. Sleep, restless though it was, finally came, as she curled around the wyvern egg, helping to keep it warm. The faint scratching sound continued. Aron regarded her with troubled eyes and then looked away. The next morning, or whatever time it was, they continued their trek. Her head wound felt better from the rest. The blood had scabbed over. Physically, she felt stronger, but her heart felt hollow. Okay, we will continue to delve the depths. We have a +2 wits and +1 from earlier preparation. That means a total bonus of 3. And we roll a 5 on the action dice for an 8 against a 4 and an 8 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. Our current progress before this was 3 out of 10. We now roll on the Delve the Depths chart for wits, and I rolled a 29, which says mark progress and reveal a danger. So we make progress, and we are now at 4 out of 10 on our formidable delve through the mountain pass, or under the mountain pass. Back to the narrative. The mountain had caved inward, and huge stones and rubble covered the wide underground roadway. Above them, small beams of sunlight through a riven part of the mountain provided glimpses of hope and life beyond this darkness. Eilwen saw a small opening in the debris. They could attempt to squeeze through that opening and travel once again on the surface, or they could attempt to climb over the field of debris and fallen stone up near the gap where the sunlight was and then back down the other side. The rocks looked unstable. If not, they'd have to turn around and find some other way of proceeding, maybe a different passageway that led in the same direction. She sat down on a fallen boulder, and Aron handed her a piece of hard bread. "I'm sorry," he said finally, "but what I did was necessary." She didn't want to talk to him. She ignored the bread in his hand. She had no appetite anyway, but her eyes bored into his until he finally looked away, muttering, and started fussing over their supplies, kneeling by his pack. "You disobeyed me," she said. "I told you I wouldn't let you die foolishly. Remember, I made an oath," he said over his shoulder. "We needed Kyffin." "No, we didn't. He yanked on a leather strap on one of his bags, tightening it, and turned to face her. She stared at him, ire in her gaze. "Are you truly that cold-hearted, Aron?" she asked in disbelief. "I am sad at his death," Aron continued at her squarely. "I wish it could have been different. But with that wound, he wouldn't have walked anyway." "We could have helped him get away," Eilwen said, standing, her voice bitter. "Bound his wounds with a tourniquet. We could have—" "You know we couldn't have faced that thing." Aron strode over to her. 2 steps and he was inches from her. "Look at us, Eilwen. Not in our current state. Maybe with a score of strong, stout-hearted warriors to back us up. Maybe then we could have chased it away or defeated it. But with just the 3 of us, it was folly, sister, and you know it." A part of her agreed with him. The other part of her stared back ice-hard cold, like the tops of the stone-gray mountains above silvered in a frozen sheen. "It is not your place to second-guess your queen," she said. "You're not queen yet, little sister," he said, a tinge of anger flaring, and something else, something she couldn't quite detect. "I'm not your little sister, I'm your same age." "But you're acting like a foolish little girl," he said. "Oh? You were so anxious to call me Your Majesty just a few days ago, or did you forget?" "And you will get the respect you're due when you earn it," he rejoined. "But not before then. Start acting like a queen instead of a night-blinded savior." Okay, this is a test your bond move for his actions the previous night and their current argument. She only has a +1 in her heart, so let's see what happens. I roll a 3 on the action dice, +1 is a 4, against a 3 and an 8 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So in order to keep her bond with him, she has to prove her loyalty, I think. Yeah, I think he'll want her to act more sensibly, more like a queen ought to act, and he expects that of her. She spun around, breathing hard, her back to him, clutching her arms over her breast, head bowed. Couldn't a queen save her own people? What kind of queen would she be if she didn't try? For a long moment, no one said anything. She finally looked up at the small hole, where faint shafts of sunlight illuminated the littered subterranean roadway. "Does acting like a queen mean letting good people die?" she asked softly. "Sometimes, yes," he said, the edge in his voice crumbling away to one of gentleness, but tinged with great weariness and sorrow. Even you?" She turned and faced him. He hesitated for a moment, his blue eyes locked onto hers. I don't want to die, Eilwen. But yes, you can have no favorites. Choose what is best for the kingdom when the time comes." "Knights and heralds, Aron, I don't think I can do that," she said, and both hands gripping her head, thinking of Kyffin and seeing Aron in his place as those terrible tentacles shot down, burning his flesh, burrowing into him, sucking the blood, that awful gurgling sound, hearing again the harrowed cries of pain as he was consumed alive, smelling the thick, cloying iron smell, even at a distance. She wished she could wipe the memory away, squeeze it out of her skull. Kyffin, Aron. The thought of Aron dying like that, dying at all, horrified and sickened her. I don't think I can lose you." "Then you'll never be the queen you need to be." She stood, turned her back on him, hugged herself again, and moved over to the wan sky, looking up through the hole, as if her gaze could pierce the leaden clouds that of a sudden had covered the rare sunbeams. Snow fell around her, catching in her hair, kissing her face with their ice, a promise of the cold, uncaring universe's ultimate end. She shivered and stared upwards and thought, Was he right? His accusations stung, but they rang with some truth. She had let this whole queen idea get to her head, hadn't she? She wasn't a queen. Who was she? She was a nobody, just a little pretender with a fancy sword and half a shiny crown. A girl from a nobody's settlement, just a petty little... No, she said to herself, her lips pressed together. The doubts clung like cold patches of ice on her soul. She would not give in to those thoughts. She was iron-sworn. She lowered her arms and clenched her fists. A queen also had power. Aron was right, but so was she. A monarch had a duty to her subjects, a duty to remain impartial, a duty to help where she could if it did not put the kingdom at risk. The Ironlands were a dark, cold place. A queen had a power to combat that. Someone had to bring hope and light. She would be that person. Eventually. You'll see, she said under her breath. I can act like a queen. Did he hear her? He didn't give any indication that he had. She would fulfill her vow to become queen, or she would die trying. Their lunch meal finished, Eilwen and Aron studied the large mass of rock blocking their destination. Over or under? Aron asked. We better go over, she said. I don't think you would fit through that crawl space, assuming it even reaches through to the other side, and I don't like the idea of getting crushed under all that rock if something happens to shift. Aron frowned. There's a lot of loose stone there. A chance we'll have to take, she said. I'll go first, and we'll lower a rope for you. She coiled the rope around her shoulders and began to climb. Okay, this is a face danger roll plus edge to climb. I rolled a 1 on the action dice, plus 2 for her edge for a 3 against an 8 and a 5 on the challenge dice for a miss. About 20 feet up the rocks, she gripped the cold stones in her fingers. Her grip slipped, and a shower of small stones scattered down on Aron. Watch it, he said. Stop complaining, she muttered under her breath. Then she lunged up, reaching for another rock. Halfway up to a ledge, she had one elbow over it and one leg, her muscles straining, sweat dripping from her eyes, when she heard a faint scratching sound, and she looked into the maggot-like eyes of a small cavern crawler, quivering in front of her. 2 more appeared, and they darted towards her, incisors open, their gray, wrinkly skin blending in with the stone. Then others began to crawl out of the rocks. With a cry, she released her hold and dropped. She bent her knees, attempting to roll with the blow to avoid harm. Okay, this is a face danger roll plus edge to not take harm from her sudden drop. And I rolled a 2 on the action dice, plus 2 for her edge is a 4 against a 6 and a 6 for a miss with a match. Great. She fell and landed poorly near Aron. She felt her head hit the unyielding stone floor, and her vision swam. Eilwen, she heard him say. She groaned, and then blackness overtook her. The twist is that she goes unconscious for a bit, and she takes 1 harm from the fall. Health is now 3 out of 5. Maybe I should invest in a helm for her. But much like the movies, where the protagonists never wear their helmets because it covers up those pretty face shots, she'd probably decline. Eilwen! She heard shouting, and her eyes momentarily opened. She saw Aron standing over her. One of the rat-like crawlers was dead, but others scurried in and out, trying to come at her. Aron kept them at bay. He had some cuts on his face, and the clothing around his legs was torn. All right, Aron must face the cavern crawlers alone. How does he do without Eilwen? Carrion crawlers crawl down the wall toward her and Aron. He sees them coming and protects Eilwen, placing himself in front of her. Is he okay when she comes to? +1, he sees them coming. +1, he has a shield and armor. -1, he's distracted by Eilwen. These are all position changes on the likelihood buttons at rpgsolo.com. And so it ends up being somewhat likely that Aron is okay. Let us see what the oracle says. Somewhat likely, I roll a 5 and get a yes, but he's wounded. "Eilwen!" she heard him shout again. Eilwen's eyes opened again. She groggily struggled to her feet and pulled out her sword and knife. Then back to back, they set about confronting the small horde of carrion eaters. Okay, for this I will do a battle move. So a battle move is a move in the core Ironsworn book, where if you want to zoom out and not go blow by blow, but would rather resolve a conflict quickly, it's quite useful for smaller encounters that don't have much narrative impact, or for larger encounters like maybe a battle between warbands. Okay, the battle move says, battle. When you fight a battle and it happens in a blur, envision your objective and roll. If you primarily fight at range, or are using your speed and terrain to your advantage, roll +edge. If you fight depending on your courage, allies, or companions, roll +heart. If you fight in close to overpower your opponents, roll +iron. If you fight using trickery to befuddle your opponents, roll +shadow. If you fight using careful tactics to outsmart your opponents, roll +wits. On a strong hit, you achieve your objective unconditionally. Take +2 momentum. On a weak hit, you achieve your objective, but not without cost. Pay the price. On a miss, you are defeated, and the objective is lost to you. Pay the price. I think this is actually a heart move here, given that she is back-to-back with her brother, Aron, and fighting defensively. Her heart is only +1. She still has her bond with Aron, so she gets to add another +1. Not that a +2 bonus has been of much use lately in this string of poor rolls, but we will see. Okay, I rolled a 4 on the action dice. +2 is a 6 against a 10 and a 5 for a weak hit. The pool of small creatures swarmed towards them, and they stabbed, slashed, and crushed the small, wriggling bodies. With a final squeal, Eilwen skewered the last creature with her sword, and she and Aron stood panting back to back. Around them, a circle of small, gray, wrinkled bodies lay splattered and flayed. Any more of them? Aron panted. More cuts on his back and head. Eilwen shook her head and leaned on a boulder and wiped blood from her arms where some had latched onto her while her attention had been focused elsewhere. "I don't like the idea of going over that anymore," Aron said, sitting heavily down next to her and glaring at the mass of stone in front of them. "I don't know if we have much of a choice," she said. "Let's bind our wounds." Eilwen pulled out strips of clean bandages from her leather pack. Okay, for the weak hit on the battle move, I'll say they suffer some harm. I'll split the 2 harm that the fight would have given her between both herself and Aron, so she's at 2 out of 5 health now. And I forgot to roll endure harm move from before when she fell, and just now for the carrion crawlers. So I need to roll this twice. This is endure harm for the fall, first of all. And I rolled plus health of 3, and I rolled a 3, which is a 6 against a 7 and a 1 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. You press on, so nothing changes there. For the carrion crawlers, I roll endure harm roll again. Plus health of 2 is a 6 plus 2 of an 8 against a 9 and a 1 on the challenge dice for another weak hit. So same thing, her health remains down at 2 out of 5. Her arms shook from weariness as she wound the strips of cloth around her arms and hands where the incisors had cut into her, and then she did the same for Aron. Okay, I don't believe we've actually used a hill move before. I had forgotten about it. We've been using make camp or sojourn moves to try and regain our health, but The heal move is another option. When you treat an injury or ailment, roll plus wits. If you are mending your own wounds, roll plus wits or plus iron, whichever is lower. On a strong hit, your care is helpful. If you, or the ally under your care, have a wounded condition, you may clear it. Then take or give up to +2 health. On a weak hit, as above, but you must suffer -1 supply or -1 momentum, your choice. On a miss, your aid is ineffective. Pay the price. So since her iron is lower than her wits, she'll have to use iron to heal herself. I rolled a 3 on the action dice, +1 for her iron is a 4 against a 3 and a 2 on the challenge dice for a strong hit, finally and barely. So she gets her health back up to 4 out of 5. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to roll that again for Aron. He's not technically an ally, as described in game terms. An ally in game terms is another player character, not an NPC. I think it makes sense just to narrate that she healed his wounds as well, given that his wounds weren't as serious. If his guts were hanging out, maybe that would be different, and I'd feel more obligated to roll it. Eilwen finished bandaging her brother, and she couldn't help but picture him, gasping out a final breath as those things crawled over him, crawled into him. She shuddered. What would have happened had she not regained consciousness when she did? Would they both be dead? Would she now be alone in these depths? It reminded her of something her mother had said once. To be iron-sworn, daughter, is to walk a dark road alone. Is this what Mother meant? I'm glad you're okay, she finally said. Aron paused and gave her a serious nod. You as well, sister, he said, and then, as if echoing her thoughts, added, Passing under this mountain alone would indeed be a dark road. Thank you for joining us, and I sincerely hope you enjoyed what you experienced. If you would like to support Roll, Ponder, and Play, you can do so in a number of ways. You can give the show a positive review on your podcatcher of choice. You can share the show with your friends and family and on your socials. Nothing beats word of mouth as a way to bring in new listeners. You can join my Patreon at patreon.com/Roll, Ponder, and Play. There you can find show notes and transcripts, as well as other projects I'm involved in. And paid subscribers get access to subscriber-only episodes, shows, and other content. Finally, you can simply reach out to me and say hello. Comments from you are what inspire me to keep doing this, and I'd sincerely love to hear what you think of the show. To do so, you can find me on my Patreon, or on Discord at Roll, Ponder, and Play, or by email at rollponderandplay@gmail.com. Until we meet again on Roll, Ponder, and Play, may your own dice rolls ever bring you success.